Strategy is a concept that creates a vision and direction for an organization or an initiative. It is important that all people within a system have clear goals and are following a direction or a mission. A strategy can provide this mission and prevent individuals from losing sight of aims and objectives. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund is implementing a critical strategy that involves various arms whose ultimate outputs will merge seamlessly to institute a culture of research and development as the basis of the knowledge economy in Nigeria. Two essential tools that TETFund has set in motion to achieve impactful strategy implementation are the TETFund Standing Committee on Research and Development, which will ultimately give birth to the National R&D Foundation, and the TETFund Centers of Excellence. The Executive Secretary of TETFund, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, is the principal driver of this initiative. He speaks on the paradigm shift concerning the journey so far.
My idea of a National Research Foundation comes into being. We'll be talking more about factor-based engagement of issues on television, on radio, in the newspapers. You will have database that is reliable. At the moment, National Bureau of Statistics is doing a good job. I must say so. They're doing a good job, granted some of their limitations. I believe that they can be strengthened and they have complementarity. That if at the end of the day we have the NDRF and there is a strong database with information generated, stored, and referenced across the world, it will be one of the most dependable, because we need to have a database where you are sure of the information there. It's reliable. I am hoping that with our making a case for R&D, that Nigeria's current commitment of only investment only 2.2%. Yes, for R&D, we hope that within 10, 20 years, as you are hoping, that it can scale up beyond 2%. We will be able to do many things, including we can produce fighter aircrafts as a nation. We can do so many things that the more competitive nations have been doing, and we're watching them because Nigerians have the capacity to do so anyway.
In the previous edition of The Paradigm Shift, we took a close look at 6 of the 13 thematic groups of the TETFund RDSC and examined how each would neatly tie into the work carried out by the TETFund Centers of Excellence to transform Nigeria into a dynamic producer economy. This edition of the program casts a spotlight on the remaining 7 thematic groups, while exploring their relevance to Nigeria's strategic positioning as a producer economy.
There cannot be development without infrastructure. In fact, if you don't have good roads, if you don't have good rail system, what about air transport, aviation? We can go on and on. I mean, we're talking about power just moments ago. All those are aspects of infrastructure. We must get it right. And that is why we have research. We're looking forward to the recommendations of that committee.
The mandate for infrastructural development is to promote, coordinate, and publicize research, development, and innovation in the creation of globally compliant and domestically relevant knowledge economy to enhance the provision of quality roads, rails, aviation services, water reticulation, and sanitation systems, housing and urban development systems and services, ports and inland waterway systems and services, and all other issues related to infrastructure.
Infrastructure cuts across the entire spectrum of the national economy, from agriculture, mining, manufacturing, distributive trade, utilities, building and construction. You require infrastructure. So what we are now saying is that, for instance, you want to do Mambeli hydropower station from the design of that power station, fabrication of the parts, installation and test run, Nigerian engineers, some Nigerian companies. When you say Nigerian companies will be involved, the thing you are calling Nigerian company, if it is heavy on foreign engineers, foreign human beings, foreign machinery and equipment, that is not what we are talking about. We are talking about our universities and so many R&D institutions in this country. The relevant ones, if it's in the area of infrastructure, must be involved. If it is in the area of health, must be involved. If it is in the area of defense, must be involved. So that when our people take part in these things, the skills acquired in the course of taking part will rub off on the curricula of our tertiary institutions. Until you do that, you can never be indigenously industrialized.
It's one area that we've not done well as a nation, but this is a great opportunity. You can see why I talked about National R&D Foundation. If we get it right, and there's a pool of funds to target research for value addition from agriculture to environment to energy to call it, believe me, that will just change our competitive index placement across the world.
This group's assignment is to employ cutting-edge research and development to specific areas in geoscience, subsea, subsurface engineering technologies to improve mineral exploration, extraction techniques, and value addition. The end result would be an increase in economic development, revenue generation, improved livelihood, and environment protection.
If we have, let's say, a refining industry that is now having to import something they call catalysts, for instance. Now, catalyst is about 80% basically sand, rock. But because of the way it is made, because of the way it is processed and prepared, it has tremendous value. As of today, our refining industry is just having to import it at tremendous cost. But we have the basic raw material to make catalyst. And therefore, if we can work between industry and academia together with the government support and government funding and government assistance, we can actually make catalysts, whether specifically for our industries or general catalysts that we can also not only use but also sell.
This country, tell me, which type of plants don't we have? From the forest there up to the Sudan, the savannah areas, and so on and so forth. And these plants have substances that can be extracted and characterized, and my oh my, they solve the problems of diseases in a manner you never would have expected. And thank God, the Ministry of Health, I understand, is setting aside funds for research for both vaccines and drugs.
The pharmaceutical group is saddled with the responsibility of designing a strategy for the continual employment of outcomes from research and coordinated field clinical trials to make pharmaceutical breakthroughs, including production of vaccines. The result of this would be availability of affordable medication for the treatment of diseases.
I'd like to put on record that TETFund was actually one of those groups that were foresighted enough to begin to look in this direction even before the pandemic hit the shores of the country. Myself and a few other colleagues for close to a decade now had been preaching the mantra for us to start to develop local solutions to problems that come up in our settings, and that's why we came up with the concept of medicine security. So kudos to TETFund for being one of the forerunners in that particular arena to identify that there is an urgent and important need for Nigerian scientists to be in a position where we can contribute to addressing our own healthcare needs. Currently, the nation, as well as the rest of Africa, is suffering for our lack of capacity to develop vaccines and other relevant interventions. However, some of the key issues that have come up in the pharmaceuticals group as well as in other cross-cutting groups that we have engaged with, have indicated that number one, phytomedicines is an area where Nigeria has a comparative advantage and where we need to start building capacity. We need to start ramping up capabilities so that we can start harnessing those capabilities. You may be aware that the agency, which I head, recently developed a phytomedicine called Niprimune, which is based on the plant Andrographis paniculata. And we're pushing to go to clinical trials for COVID-19 for that particular drug. Our colleagues in Thailand, who incidentally have had better funding, already use that particular phytomedicine to manage COVID-19. And so that's the importance of what TETFund is doing today, bringing doctors, pharmacists, and all other professionals that can contribute to undertaking successful clinical trials, as well as providing a mechanism for ready and available funding for those clinical trials to be expedited. If all those things are in place, the next time we have a pandemic, we won't be looking to the West for responses.
Based on the work of this thematic group, research outcomes and global technological breakthroughs and innovations will be employed to evolve sustainable technologies and a comprehensive roadmap for engineering education, training, and practice.
The infrastructure that we talked about, most of these are products of engineering. you can imagine. And that is why, you see, most competitive economies, they centralize science as the benchmark. Top-level science, technology, innovation. It is the avenue through which those countries' technologies are competitive. Their economies are competitive. You can't miss that. And engineering it's in virtually every aspect of life. Is it space science we're talking about? You know, it's engineering at that level. We can go on and on, apply it to defense, of course, security. Only recently, automobile, like I said, only recently Naseni went to sign an MOU with Innocent Motors. Yeah, just recently. And that is the kind of thing we're hoping. And if there is policy, that's why the triple helix model talks about, look, the academia partnering with industry and government there taking care of what they want done through policy and law. And that is very, very important. In our country, unless you back some particular things with law, you are rubbish as soon as you enact whatever what was it that you pronounce about. If it's a policy, some aspects will require that you back them with laws. If you don't, it becomes a problem. We should be able to ask our political scientists, for instance, those in the arts and humanities, to tell us why are we having challenges of governance, from leadership to the wider context of governance. For instance, Mr. President has prioritized corruption. What is the incentive for corruption? For instance, it's injustice within organizations or whatever. How do we solve it? We should be able to get recommendations from researchers to address these problems.
This group is concerned with evaluating the findings of research activities and their role in promoting good governance, social development, and internal security.
We have a responsibility now as a university to help this nation to find the kind of leadership that it needs. And believe me, universities have to do that. Anywhere in the world is university that leads the way. And I think what TETFund has done is to actually realize that this must be a strategy to make all these investments make meaning. And you know, for now and for a long time to come, University of Abuja would begin to mobilize. We say the problem of Nigeria is a problem of leadership. People have said it. I also say it's a problem of followership. You know, so we want to take this now and run with it and look at governance. Why are we where we are? When Nigeria was a colonial era, what were the issues? issues of governance? Why did we go the length we went up to the challenge to colonization, to end colonization? What did we make of it? Leadership, military. People say, oh, the crisis has been military. Now, civilian. Oh, you know, civilian is the problem. So many, too expensive, you know, legislative. We say so many things. We talk too much. Now, universities will do what they need to do. And University of Abuja, governance and leadership, we will be able to focus and help this nation to grow.
To drive research and development, you need to establish robust and effective databases. Databases of researchers, databases of researches that have been done, as well as databases of stakeholders that can partner based on the triple helix model in driving research and development forward. So it's very, very important, therefore, to not only invest heavily in that area, you know, but to actively facilitate and get a national recognition through advocacy on the need to establish the National Research and Development Foundation, as well as to tap its maximum benefit for national development.
One Health means amalgamation of earth intervention of human, animal, and wildlife.
The Medicine One Health Group is all about applying knowledge gained from years of research and clinical trials to improve healthcare delivery and mitigate disease spread, produce vaccines, and halt medical tourism, as well as capital flight from Nigeria.
Universities are built on three principles: research, teaching, and community services. You can only teach when you have the knowledge. The knowledge is always generated through research. So we are going to focus on research, on nephrology and urology, and teach this to our medical students. We are increasing the critical manpower of trained nephrologists and urologists to serve the country. A lot of foreign reserves have been utilized in seeking medical treatment outside the country. By Usman Danfodio University engaging in this, we are going to increase the critical mass of trained medical personnel in these specialties to be able to render services to our motherland. In addition to that also, we can be able to research why do we have frequent kidney failures in the country? Is it from the water we drink? Is it from the food we eat? Is it genetic? If we find out that what is leading to this increase in the incidence of kidney diseases in the country, we could be able to stop it. And if you stop it, less surgery. If you have less surgery, you have more people that are trained, healthy, to do other activities in the service of their motherland.
For quite some time, the human medical experts have been operating without much collaboration with their veterinary counterparts. But with infectious diseases, it begs the question as to why they should remain in their cells, in their silos. No, you need each other. Most of infectious diseases, a number of them, as it were, are zoonotic. And if they are, but that is even one reason. Well, that is one fundamental reason why the veterinarians and human medical experts should work together.
I believe that the long identified problem of the dichotomy between academia, particularly research and development activities going on there, and what goes on in industry, this provides an opportunity for that gap to be bridged.
This group is essential to Nigeria's knowledge economy because it's focused on research and development as the catalyst for the realization of the nation's desired industrial growth.
Introducing this output-based or outcome-based education, by introducing this outcome-based research and development, you are already creating an environment whereby industry can actually find the output of the education as well as the outcome of the research and development of immediate value, and therefore should be able to invest in it. So clearly this should significantly help to provide more funding directly from industry, because it will not just be charity again. It will not be corporate social responsibility. It will be an investment that every industry needs to make so that it will grow. It will be an investment every industry may need to make so that it can solve its own operational problems that arise on a day-to-day basis. Part of the value of R&D is not just to produce tomorrow's products, but also to expand the scope of knowledge. Because today, everybody accepts we are in a knowledge-driven industry. And until and unless you can create an environment for your own people to actually own this knowledge and expand its boundary on their own, you cannot be said to be up there running with the hares in the knowledge-based industry. I believe that this approach is now going to be absolutely essential for every country that expects to grow and develop.
Industrialization requires infrastructure, it requires good governance, it requires funding, even for haulage of products of industry. You need infrastructure, you need the roads, you need the rail, you need waterways, and so on and so forth. So thank God that these committees, look, they have looked at it, but they always come together. And we see, hey, you mentioned this there, yes, that's why we need it. And at the end, if we are able to have a house where research and research activities are emerging, but more importantly, that data is generated and a data bank is established within the National R&D Foundation, that will be a very important one. And if the data bank is credible, the COVID-19 incidences across the world today, everybody check it out there. The first reference is Johns Hopkins University. And that tells you. That's why we've always said universities are centers of excellence. There's no doubt about it. Universities are think tanks. And you can have centers of excellence based on disciplines within a university. You can have center of excellence standing on its own, not in a university. But all the parameters of excellence are there, from the personnel to the operations, to the infrastructure.
Creating and tracking progress against any operating plan is an essential management tool. What is often missing is the relationship these plans have to the future. Too often, developmental decisions are made while looking at events from the rear-view mirror. What happened last year and where we should go in the coming year. These are all good intentions. However, without a clear picture of what you want the future to look like, it will always be more reactive than proactive. This is where R&D makes the difference. Well-invested, articulated research for development maps out a long-term view of the nation, while innovation serves as the basis upon which decisions can be anchored in a manner that will mean quality life for more Nigerians. TETFund's current initiative then becomes the stepping stone towards the achievement of our long-term sustainable development goals. And that is the paradigm shift.